National Public Radio, NPR, where the news is what we say is the news.
Voices blending, melodies ascending, harmony in the air. Our songs are never ending. In the barber shop we create magic. Brad and John Show, yeah, it's pure classic. No instruments needed, just our vocal range. Notes flying high, it's our musical exchange. Tracy's station may try, but they can't compete. Our barbershop style, it can't be beat. Oh, the harmony of voices, so sweet. In the barbershop of life, our tunes will repeat. No need for instruments, no need for a band. Just the Brad and John Show, the finest in the land.
It's our Barbershop Friday intro. Yes, it's one of my favorite intros, and there's other people like that intro as well, too. We're going to try something new this morning. John, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you great, Brad.
Okay, this is John Combest out doing his on-the-street reporting. He's decided he's no longer going to confine himself to his palatial studio. He's going to go out on the street and rub elbows with the hoi polloi, right? Is that what's going on right now?
That's what we do, and I have it on good authority that at this particular carpool lane, there will be no vaping.
No vaping in the carpool lane. Okay. John is out doing his fatherly thing. Is this like delivering, is the school bus not running, or what's the deal? Do I dare ask the question?
Yeah, you can ask, and I won't answer. So, yeah, I think it's been a few months since we've had a chat headed to school for various things. So there's a unique thing going on today. So thanks for asking, Brad. Yeah.
So John's on the phone this morning, and we'll try this and see how this works out. Now, hold on. I'm going to do something. Can you hear Casey? Hold on. Let me see if you can hear this.
I'm Casey Kasem.
Can you hear that? Did you hear that?
I can hear him. I can hear him even louder than your voice, Brad.
Okay, good. Okay, that's probably because he's better than me, so he's actually going to be louder. Okay, we start the show. I have to make sure everything's working right because of the fact that this is uncharted territory.
John's so onerous because it's been, every once in a while, every few months, he doesn't call me exactly at 6:55. You're right, Brad. I think we're ready, though.
John, did I say that? Did I say that once?
Go ahead, Brad.
No, I'm not going to say it because I'm not that kind of a guy. I'm not like a J.C. Corcoran kind of guy who, when he goes into the studio, if the studio temperature isn't exactly 68.7 degrees, he has a fit. Okay, that's John Combest, Combest. Every single day he puts together his website, johncombest.com. You can spell it out. He spells it out on his website, and he delineates a lot of stuff. Delineate, is that the right word? I don't think it is.
Yeah, it is.
It is. He delineates a lot of stuff in the state of Missouri. He goes through all these news sources and pulls out what he thinks are the top sources. Sometimes it's 20, 30, 40, 50, maybe even 60 different items. But we condense it down to the top three. We bring this guy in.
I'm Casey Kasem.
And what does he do?
Now on with the countdown.
Counts them down, and we start off with...
In third place...
Some great news from the cannabis industry, Brad. We've talked a lot about drama in the last month as it relates to fights between statewide elected officials. We had friend of the show, Ethan Thampy, on yesterday to talk about some of the Delta 8 confusion going around the state. But finally, Brad, some good old straight up good news. Every month, the state of Missouri, the Division of Cannabis Regulation, talks about sales. And month over month, sales continue to improve. And Brad, the state has met the $2.7 billion. That's with a B. $2.7 billion in regulated, legal, approved cannabis sales since the program has gone into effect. And Brad, if you would like to take a look at the way that the data looks, they have some really cool visuals on the cannabis regulation website, and you can see over time the dip in medical marijuana sales versus the boost in, recreational or adult use sales. They have some pretty cool visuals on that website. So, Brad, just straight up, no sarcasm, no drama, just some great news of how many more people are choosing to just buy drugs and put money into the state coffers.
John, I got a question, and I don't mean that facetiously, but I love statistics like that. Do they show how this has been affecting the meth sales and the cocaine sales? Is there any statistics on that? Or is meth still strong in Missouri, or is that
It's pretty much the Wild West out there still. However, the only piece of data they do have that shows correlation is the sale of lava lamps.
Interesting. So
yeah, and that's tied to, and in fact, I think one of your old point of sale registers at Peaches. Remember, you once did an appearance there one time, and you probably remember they had a very sophisticated POS. That's point of sales, not piece of other stuff. But their POS had lava lamps, so that's still tied into the state database. But to answer your question, no, trucker meth and just neighborhood meth is not included in these stats.
And the cocaine numbers aren't there either?
Yeah, well, most of the sales went down after Pig Vomit died.
Okay, now, John remembers that. Okay,
and once Keith Hernandez got traded, that had a very deleterious effect on the market.
Okay, so seriously though, have they compared as the Department of what you say the Department
of Cannabis Regulation?
If I was a young man in high school and somebody said, "Hey, Brad, someday there's going to be a division of cannabis regulation in the state of Missouri," and go, "Yeah, right. That's the narcs. We all know what that is." No, but seriously, folks, has the liquor control people is this like hurting the liquor industry?
I don't, that's a great question when we think about it nationwide. I would assume there's some kind of correlation in between people replacing one intoxicant with another. That's a great question, though, Brad. I don't know the answer to that.
If the beer people in the liquor industry were smart, you know what they would do? They would say, "Hey, you cannabis guys, you're sort of cutting into our profits here. We got this guy / gal who would love to do some ads for your marijuana stores, and all it's going to take is like maybe 20 seconds worth of this person. We'll call it a person because we're not sure if it's guy or gal. And they'll just come on and go, "Hi, I got a special thing from the Missouri Department of Cannabis, and oh my God, it's got my picture on it. Oh, yeah, I'm going to smoke some of this stuff," and then watch the sales go into the toilet. Right? What do you think, John? No,
I think so. And then people would sign up for Masculinity Monday, which is a Brad Hildebrand original, and then suddenly cannabis and alcohol sales would go down. Now more people would get on TRT, which makes a friend in the Central West End happy. But other than that, yeah. And now you do remember, jokes aside, that Constellation Brands, who owns Modelo and companies like that, aggressively got into the cannabis space. Gosh, excuse me, I want to say 3 or 4 years ago, with mixed results, I would say.
Yeah, didn't they do a cannabis-infused beer or something like that for a while?
Oh, yeah. Several folks have attempted that. It can't be any worse than, right when I was out of college, Brad, Budweiser had Budweiser E. Do you remember? And that's not ecstasy, but it was energy. Do you remember this?
I do not. What?
Oh, it was, first of all, it was the worst tasting thing you've had in your life. And of course, young John Combest bought it. I think I was like 22 when it came out. It was horrible. It was so bad. It was like an energy drink mixed with beer. So take two flavors that are unique and distinct and pour them into a mug and shake it up. Oh, it was horrible. I finished the 6-pack, just to be clear. I'm not going to waste, I don't like to come out of pocket for anything, Brad. So if I'm dropping like $8 on a 6-pack, I don't care how terrible it is. I'm going to finish it. But yeah, it was a horrible idea. But I would think that maybe alcohol and cannabis, they're two downers, right? So maybe they would work together well.
Well, what John doesn't tell you was after he finished that 6-pack of e-beer, his shirt ripped off, his muscles got real big, and he went out and lifted up. And the next door neighbor had a flat tire, and he says, "I'll just pick up your car. Can you pull those lug nuts off while I hold it?" And so
now, what didn't happen, though, is I was going to do that, but the homeowners association already had the car towed because it had had a flat tire for 17 minutes.
Yeah, right. Okay, here we go.
Up a notch to number 2.
Well, Brad, I have a warning for you. I know you like to drive around Washington, right? You like to check out transmitters. You like to check out local businesses, right?
I used to, but not so much anymore.
Well, here's a wacky story that is not at all funny. And I want you, Brad, I'm telling you, I implore you, do not laugh at this because this is not funny. A gentleman in the Washington Missourian today wrote a letter. He is an LGBTQIA asterisk plus supporter, and he's also a BLM supporter. I Googled him, and he's quite active in Washington community things. His name is Matthew Larimore, Laramore, not to be confused with the crown jewel of the Hazelwood School District, Larimore Elementary School. But I digress. Mr. Larimore points out that he's been driving around Washington, Missouri, Brad, and he has seen Ann Wagner signs. You know the problem with those Ann Wagner signs, Brad?
They're upside down.
No, because then people would call and they would prove Brad's point about advertising. That is not what happened. Mr. Larimore says that somebody's gone around and replaced the W on Wagner signs with the letter F. So now the signs read Ann something different entirely, and it starts with an F. And that is not funny, Brad. And Mr. Larimore suggests in his letter that the people that have defaced these signs are probably liberals, according to him. And he hates the dichotomy between being progressive and using this type of horrific slur, an offensive slur. So there's a lot of assumptions made here. I think the one thing that we know for sure is if it's not you or Ray Hartman doing it, I think the list of suspects is probably zero.
So, in other words, you're saying this is bogus.
No, I'm just saying that somebody has gone out and done it. But to presume that there are people that are overtly political and not a bunch of teenage kids that think it's funny, or not a bunch of Republicans that, might be mad at Ann Wagner about something. I'm sure people have actually done that to signs. I believe this guy.
But does
he jumps to the assumption that it was Democrats that did it.
Does he have proof? Because
sometimes, of course not. No.
Sometimes you hear these stories and you go like, okay, everybody's got this thing in their phone nowadays called a camera. Can you take a picture of that and let us see this? Because once again, it's you see some of these stories, John, and you go like, okay, this is just bogus. But
I believe he probably saw one or two. And again, what's telling in his letter, he doesn't say how many. So he could have seen one that a neighborhood kid did and thought was funny. And this gentleman chooses to extrapolate it out to being a statement on, the dichotomy of liberals, being hypocritical about human rights or whatever. But it's a cute thing that gets his name in the paper. And the Missourian can finally fill 2 column inches with a letter to the editor that doesn't have to do with a dog having a bowel movement in somebody's yard, and everybody wins.
Well, there's Washington pooper scoopers that'll take care of that problem.
That's right. I've heard a commercial for that, actually.
Right. Okay, now one other question on this, not to belabbe this whole point.
Let's belabor it, Brad. It's a belaboring Friday.
It's belaboring Friday. No, but I'm going to ask you a weird question and I try to be politically plugged in. Who is Ann Wagner running against on the Democratic ticket?
That's Ray Hartman.
Oh, is it Ray Hartman?
Yeah, he is. He is the Democratic nominee. I think he had 1 or 2 people on the ballot technically against him in the Democratic primary. But yeah, it's definitely Ray.
Okay, because I didn't keep up on who won the primary. So it's Ann Wagner against Ray Hartman.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And so far, it's not going to be much of a contest. And my whole theory is that Ray just wants to be able to say that he ran. What else is he going to be doing? And I like Ray, but what else is he going to do?
Yeah, I guess. Okay, last but not least,
the number one.
I saved the best piece of news for last for you, Brad. To quote Vanessa Williams, I went and saved the best for last. The YouGov poll, and I usually use a term to describe them, but I have a beautiful co-pilot in the car with me right now. So I will not be using a certain phrase that I use to describe British people. But the British people team up with SLU for the SLU YouGov poll. And what's gotten headlines lately is, the presidential race in Missouri, the Senate race in Missouri. But Brad, for the first time in a year and a half, they did a survey on 4-day school weeks. This is going to warm your heart on a belaboring Friday. 42% of Missourians say they are against a 4-day school week. 30% say they support it. So I guess 30% of people surveyed were union school teachers, and 28% are undecided. So, Brad, your proverbial side in this debate appears to be winning the 4-day school week debates.
On so many different fronts, John, this just bothers me. It really does. It almost bothers me as much as reading all the Facebook posts, people bemoaning the fact that yesterday at the Cardinals game, there were only 11,000 people there.
I saw all that, yes.
I'm thinking to myself, okay, in Miami, the headlines would be, hey, 11,000 people came to the game yesterday. But I can fix this problem. This problem is easily fixed.
Oh, yeah? How's that?
We need a new stadium. That's all there is to it.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know what? I'll do you one better. We need 2 stadiums because we need to have a team that pays homage to the St. Louis Browns. And we could put Ali Marmol and John Mozeliak in charge of the St. Louis Browns and then hire some other folks to run the Cardinals. What do you think about that?
I'm still saying, and once again, I'm like the lone voice in the woods. The Missouri people are on this side of the state. The St. Louis area people, we have a problem in that the Kansas City Chiefs and the Kansas City Royals are being essentially courted to move into the state of Kansas, to Missouri, to leave Missouri behind, to leave their great place with excellent parking right there in I-70 at 435, and move into into Kansas. I say we have a dome stadium that has a little bit of heritage to it. It also has a former NFL team that went to the Super Bowl. We have a baseball team, and the Cardinals are in the National League. The Royals are in the American League. There was a time when we had 2 baseball teams in town. The Cardinals, which were in the National League, and the Browns were in the American League. And they worked the schedule so that when the Cardinals were on the road, the Browns were at home playing in the stadium. And by the way, I will give you my little bit of trivia. Do you know for 1 or 2 years, the Bat Boy was the same kid for both the Browns and the Cardinals?
I hope he got overtime, Brad.
Yes, so he was working every single day of the games because of the fact that he wasn't on the road with the team because they don't let the Bat Boy go on the road. I don't know if you know that or not, but he was there every single day. That's what we need. But yet, do you hear anything like instead of Tashara Jones pitching this money for reparations, she should be on I-70 driving over and talking to Lamar Hunt Jr., whatever his name is, and saying, hey, come to St. Louis. We've got an NFL stadium that's just ready for you to move in. And it's not all that old. It needs a little bit of work, but not all that old. What do you think, John?
I think it's brilliant, and I think that I think we would probably want to find, because Chiefs is not a politically correct name. I think we would want to maybe make it something that had to do with reparations, or I don't know. I know that SSM and SLU Health have like a little mini controversy now. You might want to call them the Billikens, or you might want to call them the anesthesiologists, or something like that. I don't know.
How about the Paybacks? They could be the St. Louis Paybacks.
The St. Louis Paybacks.
You don't like that, do you? Okay, we have to take a break. That's John Combest on his phone, escorting.
You did a great job. Let me interrupt, Brad. The drop-off process is complete, and you did a masterful job on the technical side of putting this together. I was a little defensive when we started this call, and I'm man enough to admit that sometimes I get a little defensive when I'm stressed out. Thank you for putting the technology piece of this together. Everything just went very perfectly. We got a hug and a kiss, and I am headed back to the John Combest Studios.
Okay, let me give you a heads up on this. We go into the break, unlike when we're normally doing our normal setup. I cannot talk to you off air, so you will just hear the studio background. But I will be back with you when the commercials end, and we'll go back to the show. Is that are you cool on that?
That sounds great.
Okay, we have to take a break. That is John Combest mobile this morning, and he's out and about. We'll be back after these important messages.
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's Combest, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?